There we go. Our recording has started. Welcome to the April CPCC meeting. I'm Emily Locke. I'll be your facilitator for today from the Department of Safety. What we'd like to do is I'll do a roll call of our commissioners just to see which commissioners we have with us today. As a reminder, we'll go through the commission business and the agenda that we sent out just a few minutes ago. We have a presentation today from the Denver Sheriff's Department regarding data around persons in custody and their work there. And then we have updates from our Department of Safety as well. So with that, I'll go through and start with a roll call of commissioners. Again, I see we have several guests with us. If you could please hold your comments and questions until the public comment period at the end of the meeting, that would be most appreciated. So with that, I will go ahead and start. I'm going to just go around robin on my screen as I see folks, and I apologize if I don't get your name right, but I will do my best. So let's go ahead and start with Nicole. Oh, I think you're on mute. I'm so sorry. All right.
Here we go. I'm here. Sorry,
Awesome.
it's showing up in a different kind of format. There we go.
Thank you so much. And could you do me a favor? Introduce yourself and which commission seat you represent. Sorry.
Certainly. I'm Judge Rodarte from Denver County Court.
Thank you so much. Next, I see Jonathan.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Jonathan McMillan. Honestly, I forget what seat I fill. I think it might be community or it might be youth. I'm not sure.
Let me take a look. Bear with me one moment. You are juvenile justice.
Okay, juvenile justice. There you go.
Well, thank you for being here today. Armando.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm Armando Saldate, Executive Director of Public Safety for Denver.
Thank you. Laura.
Hi, everyone. Laura Rovner, good to see you. I'm having some computer issues today, so my camera may go on and off. I'm going to apologize in advance for that. Anyway, I am one of the academic positions on the commission.
Thank you. Next, I have Taj.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taj Ashahid. I'm with the Second Chance Center and the Department of Corrections, and I actually occupy the seat for lived experience.
Thank you. Next, Orlando.
Orlando Salazar, and I'm pretty sure I'm also lived experience.
I can double check that. It says at large, actually.
At large. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries at all. Deanna.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Deanna Mays. I'm the Chief Probation Officer for Denver County Court.
Thank you. And Leanne.
Hi, everyone. I am the delegate for the Municipal Public Defender's Office here today for our Chief, Colette Tibet.
Thank you. And Anthony.
Hey there, I'm Anthony Pfaff, and I am the commissioner, one of the commissioners occupying an at-large Denver seat.
Thank you. Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol Peoples. I represent, and I hate to say it, I don't even like the term, the name Offender Services, but I've always just said reentry.
Fair enough. Thank you. Let's see. Then next I have Tomas.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tomas Hernandez. I'm the Executive Director of Tribe Recovery Homes, and I believe I represent lived experience mission.
Let me see. I can double check that. Victim advocate.
Okay, I'm that.
And next I have Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Beery with Denver Human Services, and I'm the delegate for Executive Director Jay Murray.
Thank you. Greg, I have you next.
Hey, everyone. Greg Morrow, Director of Community Corrections for Department of Safety.
Thank you. Then Marley.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marley Bordowski with the City Attorney's Office, Delegate for the Denver City Attorney.
Thank you. And Bob.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Bob McDonald, Executive Director for Denver Public Health and Environment.
Thank you. And then we have Laura W. here as well as a delegate.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Laura Wachter with the Department of Safety.
Thank you. And I see that we have Chief Thomas connecting into the link. While he's doing that, could we please let me know if I've missed any commissioners or delegates of commissioners in the introductions?
Yes, Liz, Hedda is trying to get in. I just resent her the email, so she'll be here in just a sec.
Great, thank you. All right, and then as noted, I see we have Chief Thomas here as well.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. And we will give Liz just a second, hopefully. All right, Carol, if you could please let me know if she lets you know if she's having any additional difficulties and I can try to help troubleshoot. But in the meantime, I think we can turn it over to our first set of guests. I see we have Courtney and Leslie from the Denver Sheriff's Department. If you would like to introduce yourselves, and if you have any other members of your team here, just please introduce yourselves and let us know the topic of your presentation, and then you can go ahead and take the floor. I will remind commissioners as well, if we could hold our questions until the end of the presentation, then we'll go ahead and let them get through the material, and then we'll start asking all questions and conversation at that time.
Great. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Courtney Williams. I am the Director of Performance Management and Strategy at the Denver Sheriff Department. Here with me today is our Senior Data Analyst, Dr. Leslie Behringer-Wise. Leslie is the agency's Power BI expert who manages all of the dashboards for our organization. So she is available for any questions following the presentation. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen, and then I'll go over the topic for today. So please bear with me. I am accustomed to working in teams, so I will do my best to share in Zoom. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Nope.
Okay, then that did not work. I apologize. Let me try one more time.
And let me know. I have it up as a backup as well, if you have any challenges.
Thank you. Seems pretty straightforward, but yet I managed to.
It's working now, Courtney.
Okay, thank you. I can't get it to work in presentation mode, so I apologize. My presentation this afternoon will focus on the data related to the current population at the Denver Sheriff Department, as well as some information related to use of force incidents and assault incidents within the DSD jail facilities. Doesn't seem like that's advancing. Okay, there we go. So as you may know, the DSD operates two separate jail facilities. The downtown detention facility, also known as the Van Cise Simonette facility, as well as the county jail. The DSD is our intake facility, or excuse me, the DDC is our intake facility, which houses roughly 2/3 of our current population. And the county jail typically houses people who have already been classified by the DSD classification team, as well as individuals who may have already been sentenced and will be serving out some or all of their sentence in DSD custody. So the data in this report is extracted from our jail management system called ATIMS. And all of the data was pulled on April 17th. So as we go through and you see current data, it is labeled as such, but just keep in mind that that was pulled 2 days ago. So we will be looking at some data that was pulled from April 17th, as well as a little bit of historical data that was included for the purpose of providing some context to our current population. So as you can see on this slide, our current population at both jail facilities is 1,750. This is an average daily population that is calculated using counts. Those are taken daily at each facility. And then these formal counts that are conducted each day, 3 times a day, are added together and then averaged, and that's how we calculate our average daily population. So since January of 2023, the DSD has processed a total of 6,732 people through our intake process and has out-processed or released 6,584 individuals. And then since January 2023, the DSD, or we're currently sitting at 75% of our current total population. And most, as you can see, most of the arrests are based on charges for, in that top right tile, you can see most of our arrests are based on warrants or are people who were a fugitive of justice at the time of their arrest. As of April 17th, we had 1,747 people in our custody at the time that this data was pulled at 10:30 a.m. Our average age of arrest, as you can see, is a little over the age of 36. Our median days in custody is 66. Our average length of stay is much lower than that. Usually it's around 19 days for our average length of stay. As you can see, most folks in our custody are not sentenced. And so that comprises 90% of our population, are 90% are unsentenced. As far as suicide alerts, we currently have 84% of our population who are not identified as needing to have a suicide alert added to their profile. And mental health alerts, pretty consistent with years previous, where we're seeing about half of our population with some type of mental health alert. As far as our classifications, we're usually sitting at, with most majority of our individuals in custody falling into that medium high and medium low for risk based on their classification level. And as far as the race and ethnicity breakdown, the majority of the people in our custody are identified as white. We have roughly 30% of our population are identified as Black, and then 1 or less than 1% identify as in some of these other categories, either Asian or Pacific Islander, unknown, or American Indian, or Alaskan Native, excuse me. I apologize, I'm having some issues here. Okay. So looking at our bookings specifically, we can see that the majority of our bookings are for misdemeanor charges. So that's the 45, almost 46% that you're seeing on that donut tile, the tile with the donut graph. And as far as our average bookings by day of the week, most of our bookings are taking place on Thursdays and Fridays, where we're intaking roughly 79 people per day. Not surprisingly, the agency that accounts for most of our bookings is the Denver Police Department, followed by the Denver Sheriff Department. And then our average daily bookings pretty consistently, even compared to last year, are sitting at around 62 to 66 bookings per day. When looking at the population, a little backing that up a little bit and looking more historically, We have the population from January displayed here, the population from January 1st, 2023 until April 18th of 2023. And you can see that the population does kind of ebb and flow, but generally there is an upward trend in our population. Looking back just a little bit further, this visual goes back to June of 2021, where again, you'd see some fluctuations in the population, but a general upward trend. This annual summary for 2022 was included just because we weren't able to report out in January and kind of give you a summary of how things looked as we closed out the year 2022. So closing out 2022, we counted a total of 22,082 bookings. And then similar to what we're seeing this year, the majority of the folks who were in DSD custody throughout the year did fall into that medium, low, medium, high risk categories. Again, I mentioned that the average length of stay is pretty low at 18.71 days for the average length of stay. That's been pretty consistent throughout the past couple of years. Again, average bookings were sitting at around 60 for the average and 62 for the median. As far as the overall age, again, very consistent. We're seeing that the average age is around 35 to 36 years old. And then the average releases are just above 68 people released per day. So in 2022, we were intaking fewer people than we were releasing, which does help with the population. Again, the bookings by race, we're seeing that people who are identified as white comprise most of the population, followed by people who are identified as Black. And then ethnicity is broken out separately with people who are not Hispanic or Latino, comprising roughly 60% of that population. So that concludes the summary of our jail population. So now I'm going to go into just a few slides on our use of force incidents. So in 2023 year to date, we have confirmed 272 use of force incidents. That's slightly higher than, slightly lower than what we saw last year at the same time, where we had 280 use of force cases confirmed by April of 2022. We finished off 2022 with a total of 942 confirmed use of force cases. As far as mental health alerts, of that, when use of force incident occurs, and we pull in a behavioral health flag or mental health alert, we're seeing that the suicide alert is the alert that shows up most frequently at 76%. And then behavioral health flags are comprising that other remaining 24%. So as far as assaults are concerned, this slide is focusing on inmate assaults, or assaults between the people who are in custody, where people who are in custody are assaulting one another. So in April, as of April 17th, we were sitting at 174 total incidents involving 342 different individuals. That resulted in 18 total injuries. And then in 388 instances, DPD was contacted. The number of incidents that actually also involved force was 49. You can also, if it's of interest, there's some data here and some tiles here, some line graphs that help visualize the total incidence by month as well as by day of week, which helps us to kind of prepare for resource allocation and things like that. So pretty consistently, Wednesday is, I think, one of our highest days for incidents. And then as of right now, it looks like February was our highest month for incidents. So this slide is focusing, different from the last slide, this is inmate on staff assaults. So when a person in custody assaults a staff member. So far, year to date, we have recorded a total of 47 incidents involving 39 people in custody. 54 total staff members have been assaulted, resulting in 15 injuries. In those cases, 36 instances resulted in DPD being contacted. And then just for some comparison, we finished off 2022 with a total of 201 incidents, resulting in 28 injuries. So we are already beyond half of, for injuries, we're seeing more than half of the total number of injuries in all of 2022. And then also we've had in 2022, I think we had a total of 6 individuals who needed to seek attention from the hospital. And then so far this year, 3 staff members have needed to seek medical attention following one of these incidents. And that was in April alone. 9 total for the year resulted in hospital visits when a staff member was assaulted. And that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Courtney. Really appreciate all that data. I see that Taj has his hand raised.
Courtney, thank you for that presentation. I think one thing that popped out in my brain back on tile 11, I think it was, and you mentioned it, that Wednesday is the day that seems to have the most assaults during the week. And I noticed not only in the week, but I think Saturday is probably the second busiest day, if you want to call that, but still slightly lower than Wednesday. Why Wednesday in terms of, do you know what factors might be contributing that make Wednesday, so, you know, a day of the week that has the highest, you know, sort of assaults?
Yeah, so one of our team members recently conducted an analysis on our use of force incidents and was able to kind of dig into this a little bit more. Of course, that's you know, related to use of force. This is specific to, your question is specific to inmate on inmate assaults. However, he was able to get a little bit of information and insight into that. But I'd have to go back and review his report to give you a solid answer on you know, why we're kind of seeing that trend. But I know some of that work has been done, so I could circle back with you if needed. Leslie, do you have any thoughts on why that data is showing that Wednesdays are the kind of our peak for the inmate on inmate assaults?
No, I haven't really seen anything yet that indicates why that day would be higher than any other day so far, but I will keep looking into it.
Yeah, and thank you, Leslie and Courtney. And just my impression, because at first when I saw Saturday was pretty high, it made sense. You have more arrests on Saturday anyway. But I was wondering something like what day is commissary, you know, through the jail. Jonathan, you're nodding your head because we know we know a little bit about commissary day in jail. So I think maybe something like that might be a factor, because on a day where that type of activity is going on, that's where you have a lot more conflicts between inmates, centered around, you know, commissary and the peripheral trade that happens during that. So If you could, I'd be interested in knowing whatever insights you guys ended up getting. So thank you.
Yeah, that'd definitely be interesting to look into. Maybe higher booking dates too, or booking times too. See if there's a peak that time too.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Before I continue with questions, I apologize. I wanted to pause and note we've had several more commissioners able to join us. We'll welcome in Councilwoman Ortega, Sean McDermott, Liz Ojeda, and also DA Beth McCann. And if I've missed anyone else, please let me know. All right. With that, we'll move. I saw Anthony's hand next.
Yeah, thank you. And really amazing presentation. It's so great seeing that data. I was wondering a couple of things. First thing, just do we have any information about the unique number of people over the year in custody at the different jail facilities? So I know we had the total number of bookings, but how many unique people does that represent? And then additionally, and I'm new to the commission, so this may be something that's already been analyzed, but have we overlaid any of CPCC's initiatives on the trends in booking at the jail, and especially rebookings?
So Leslie, I'll let you handle the first question and then I can handle the second question.
Yeah, the first one. So as far as the booking number, we count that as a unique number. So each booking is a unique count.
And then what
We
about
count
unique people? So the
what-
unique number of people that those bookings represent. So
Yeah,
one
so-
person booked twice would be one. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so each booking number is counted as a unique individual. We count CD number as a duplicated person. So does that make sense to you? Did I explain that right?
Yeah, maybe just terminology differences. So the total unique number of people booked to the jail through the entire year, that was the number that was shown on your slides, or that was the total number of bookings?
Yeah, so if you see anything that says total number of bookings, that's going to be a unique number.
Oh, okay.
Anytime you see that. So we're counting a booking number, which is going to be a unique number. If it says just like total number, total CD number, anything like that, that's probably not going to be unique because that number, the CD number they use each time they come in, that's not going to be unique, but the booking number is going to be unique to their unique booking.
Actually, I think that's a little turned around, Leslie. So the total number of bookings should be, the aggregate of all total number of bookings, and that would include someone that has been booked multiple times. And then the unique number should be the CD number, which is that person. So that should be less than the total number of bookings, because we obviously have people that are booked multiple times. So do you guys know what that disparity is or what that count is? What's the total number of bookings I know you showed versus the number of people booked, and including those that have been booked multiple times? Is that what you're asking, Anthony?
Yeah, you've got it exactly. I was just wondering what that smaller number of the unique number of individuals that were.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, I misunderstood your question. I'm sorry about that. So yes, I will bring that number up for you in a minute.
That's great that you have it so available. I figured that takes some time to dig into.
Yeah, sorry, I completely misunderstood your question.
No worries. I probably didn't phrase it very eloquently.
Nope, not a problem. Courtney, do you want to handle the second part and I will bring up the second number?
Sure. To answer your other question, I don't know all of the priorities that have been outlined by the CPCC, but we could definitely get that added. But I think that from what I do know about the priorities, that a lot of it is looking at recidivism rates, or what we call rebooking rates, because we can't truly measure recidivism at the Denver Sheriff Department, since we do not know if an individual was rearrested for a new crime in another jurisdiction without doing a full background check in like an NCIC database. So as far as rebooking rates, we do go through and regularly evaluate each program to determine if there is an impact on rebooking rates. We also look at length of time between bookings to see if there is a positive impact in that area. So it's not currently included in any of our jail demographic data, but it is included in our annual assessment routines or our annual excuse me, cannot talk, our annual assessments that we go through and where we evaluate program by program and where we're at with that with those rebooking rates or recidivism rates.
Yeah, Courtney, and I can add some historical perspective as well. So so dating back, we have done this in the past, Anthony, what you're asking, right? We have laid over our trends in our book and our jail population versus like seminal events that we've done in CPCC. So like we have an older demographic that we have not updated in the past. So we started out with when we talked about smart pretrial in 2012. We got where we were at max capacity in 2017. And then we had all rallied around all sorts of programs that we did, around behavioral health courts, all sorts of courts. And then we saw, and these aren't things that you could really show that correlation, direct correlation, but you can see as CPCC did things, there were reductions in the population. I'll give you an example. It used to be, Courtney talked about right now, I think our average daily bookings are from 62 to 66. For those of you that have been on the commission a while, you recall the days where our average daily bookings was 100 and our average releases was around 100 a day. That's when we had populations in the 2000s as opposed to the 1700. So, I mean, there are definitely intentional things that have been done to reduce that number of bookings and things around that. So I think as a commission, as we start laying out, more formally how we're laying things out and showing things, I think that is a good number to keep up, is that overlay that you talked about.
Great, thank you both so much.
All right, Leslie, before I move over to the next, did you have an opportunity to look? And if not, that's fine.
I am having computer issues, of course.
Of course.
So there's a slight delay.
No worries at all. While you are delayed, I can share that I apologize. I inadvertently missed that Blake Renner has also joined us as well to add to our commissioner cohort today.
Emily, well, Leslie, I had a couple of questions as well. The first one is, I know that, and it might be helpful just to kind of give the commission some background on the inmate tablet program. So as part of the innovations and how we have folks in our care and custody and innovative programming and how we're getting information to those in DSD custody, the sheriff has rolled out an inmate tablet, computer tablet program for inmates, to all inmates. And so, Courtney, if you want to talk about that, but my question is centered around, do you have or have you outlined an impact analysis around maybe negative inmate behaviors, maybe assaults, maybe grievances that will show what was the impact of tablets?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Director. So we launched the tablet program on March 17th. And so we wanted to have at least 1 month of data to try to look at to determine if there has been an impact on assaults, use of force incidents, and things like that. So we're also looking at whether or not any other initiatives would impact that data. And so that analysis should be completed by the end of this month. So I'm happy to share that with either you directly or with this group, or however you would like that shared. That is on our radar and is something that we're working on. It was just kind of early to tell, since it's only been 1 month since the tablets were actually rolled out. But yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm eager to see if that's had an impact, and hopefully a positive impact.
Great, thank you, Courtney. We look forward to it. And yeah, you could just share it with me and then I'll make sure the commission has it, has that analysis. 'Cause I know we're all looking forward to the positive, hopefully, reaction we'll have from that. And a lot of those negative behaviors, we hope we'll start seeing a reduction. And my second question, I hate to ping Leslie on this because I know she's working on something else. I know and I see the update. I know lots of us see the update around COVID counts. I know that for a while there, we were trending down a lot to the days that we had 0 COVID cases. But you guys just have a general, are we still in that kind of predicament?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because the meeting this week, we actually decided that since there have been 0 cases for a very long time, we are going to no longer update the dashboard and are going to archive it for a while until another outbreak happens or doesn't happen. We are going to take down the public facing dashboard and archive it. It's not going to be deleted. So if something happens, it's still there, but we're going to send out an email and everything so everyone knows about that. But I was actually typing that up this week to send out to everyone. So it's interesting you bring that up. But yeah, we've had 0 cases for a long time. So that's fantastic.
Excellent. And I applaud your effort in managing the pandemic. Really, really good work. So thank you. That's all I have.
And we are going to keep our monthly meeting with DDPHE to monitor any community outbreaks or anything that's going on there. So that will be good.
That's great. Do we have any other commissioner questions? I saw we had DA McCann, but I believe it looks like she may have dropped off. I know she had several meetings and interviews booked this afternoon and was joining as she could. So we may have temporarily lost her presence.
Yeah, Emily, this is Jonathan. I have a question. So on, I forget what slide it was, but you had reported out essentially a breakdown of the demographics and the racial breakdown of the inmate population by percentage. I'm wondering if there is any type of comparison against dimmer population as a whole. For example, I think it says 23% or so identified as Black or African American. And if I'm last I checked, I think Black African American percentage in Denver is around 8% or so. So the disparity between the inmate population versus the metropolitan population, does that exist?
Yes, our data indicates, something very similar, where if you look at the demographic data for the Denver, for the city and county of Denver, it's what the information I pulled is that we're at about 9%, just a little over 9% of that population is identified as Black or African American. And so, yes, we are seeing the potential overrepresentation in our jail population, since we have roughly 30% of the people in our custody who are identified as Black or African American. As far as other demographics are concerned, it's pretty consistent with the what we're seeing in the community as far as demographics. So that is the one area that we identified as an area where there's some overrepresentation.
Hey, Courtney, just I think it might be helpful for the commission in the future around your presentations around jail is to really, for every population you're grabbing or every metric you're measuring, like mental health alerts, length of stay, is also be able to represent that for our demographics. Like is our, because I remember in the past, looking at length of stay for African-American population, for Latino, Latinx population, and see if there's any disparities there, because sometimes you will see that in those certain metrics that we're capturing. And especially around all our efforts around race and social justice, I think it's really good that we measure not only the aggregate, but also the populations. So I think that would be helpful in next future presentations.
Yeah, that's great. I'll ask the team to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you both. Other commissioner questions? All right, before we wrap up this portion of the agenda then, Leslie will give it one last chance, and if not, no worries, we can always follow up and send that information out to the commissioners at a later date.
Yeah, I don't think my computer's gonna cooperate today. Anthony, I will send that number to you too as well, and then I can send it out in an email. And I am going to add it to the average daily population dashboard, so that will be sent out in my weekly email as well. So if you all get those, you'll see that as a new addition.
Thank you. And I see Councilwoman Ortega has a hand raised.
I do. I wanted to ask a question about, so you showed the slides about incidents that involved inmate on inmate or deputy on inmate, and then you showed also inmate on deputies, and which ones resulted in injury that also resulted in hospitalizations or hospital visits. I didn't, maybe I missed this, but I didn't see the data on the either inmate on inmate or deputy on inmate that resulted in hospital visits. I know it was a higher percentage than it was inmate on deputy. Can you pull that slide back up and show me if that was covered? If not, is that something that we can get information on? I may have not been paying full attention when you walk through that.
Courtney, I don't think we did snapshots of the actual hospitalization slides, but I have that up and I can show that on my screen.
Okay.
Just one moment.
Thanks.
While Leslie's pulling that up, is it possible for me to get a copy of the CPCC initiatives so that I can start including that in our presentations?
Yes,
I can, go ahead, Armando.
yeah, we can get that for you.
Thank you so much.
So here is the inmate on staff hospitalizations for 2023. So we had 6 hospitalizations this year so far. 3 of them were in April alone. In 2022. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just curious then if you have the reverse.
Yeah, and then in 2022, we had 9 total. So we're already seeing a very large number this year. And then for inmates, in 2023, we had 2022 total. Looks like most of them were in January with, this is a percentage, sorry, 31%. And then in 2022, we had 57 total. Okay. Or quite a lot in 2022.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Okay. And those resulted in hospital visits?
Yes.
Hospital transfers. Okay, got it. Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate you sharing that. I just didn't hear that covered when you were walking through the data. So
no, and that we didn't actually take snapshots of this dashboard or this slide, so you didn't miss this part.
Yeah.
And this dashboard is public facing too, so you guys are welcome to look through. Okay. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just wanted to thank Courtney and Leslie. Great presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. My understanding is this is always a topic of great interest and great conversation for the commissioners. So really appreciate all the detail and all the work for this. So we will, if there are any follow-up questions that come to mind later, please feel free to reach out to me or to Asadia, and we can definitely connect you with the jail team. I will make sure to have a copy of the materials presented today in a follow-up email along with the meeting recording links. So you'll be able to go back and revisit the conversation we've had today and also these materials as well. All right, thank you so much, Courtney and Leslie, really appreciate it. So with that, we'll turn to our next item on our agenda. We have updates from the Department of Public Safety. So I will turn it over to Executive Director Saldate to start us off.
Great, thank you, Emily. So first, I got to start with an apology. I apologize. I missed last CPCC meeting. I had every intention of being there. Then I had a personnel matter that happened just before the meeting, and it required my attention. So I just wanted to cover a couple of things I know that became topics in that meeting. The first one, and you'll see on the agenda, is the mayoral administration transition. I know that that's the subject of a lot of curiosity around what we as a Department of Safety, and then our departments within Department of Safety, what are we doing to prepare for a mayoral transition? How are we collecting documents for briefings and all those? So I just wanted to give everyone kind of a quick overview of it. In case you have any more questions, you can always reach out to me and I can explain it. And one of the things about the briefing that will be covered is also, you know, CPCC, and that the critical component that you all play in our public safety here in Denver. So I first want to talk about, so the mayor's office, our current mayor, Hancock, his administration has, they formalized a digital notebook outline template that all the departments in the city are populating right now for each of our departments. So my team, and thankfully Emily was a big part of that effort, we have completed our first draft of that, and some of the items that were in that, and Emily, please feel free to fill in what I forget, because you're more integral in the actual inputting of the things, but some of them are, you know, just some of the charter language, the ordinances that provide us our authorities, and kind of those outlines, those legal outlines for new administration. Secondly, we really talk about our current org structures, the roles people have, what we're doing. We then are also briefing on current hot topics, on issues that we are really working on, current projects, current programs that are really, you know, a big part of our work. And then, you know, we had some other kind of like words of wisdom things for folks that we'll be sharing. And so we really are working hard to make sure that that we have, you know, material that is digestible for a team, because it's a lot. You can only imagine it's a lot if you're coming into the city and having this. And so summarizing that high level stuff, and then also having secondarily type briefings prepared for, you know, when we have a mayor elect and their transition team, and really going and deep diving in around issues around that. The other thing that it's incumbent upon us is also to look at the mayor campaigns and like try to get, you know, where some of the highlighted issues that they're talking about, and try to be prepared to brief them on those things. One of those issues might be police hiring, right? Or hiring for certain things, and we'll try to be prepared around that. And then secondarily, there's also part right now is we're also, those of you that are familiar with our city budget process, we are in the start of our budget process for 2024 budget. So this is a different one because we're going to be doing it in the midst of a mayoral turnover. So obviously the new mayor will have their priorities. And so we'll have a quick turnaround time for a new mayor's administration to input those and really provide some direction around budget priorities, and also new council members that will also be you know, voting on the budget. So it's going to be a lot going on, a real condensed process, but I want you all to know that we have a lot of folks working on that, documenting it, leaving behind a lot of good organizational like artifacts and documents and policies and all those things in place. So I just wanted to provide a quick background on that to give you that update. Emily, since you work so closely, did I miss anything on that?
No, that was a great overview, Armando. I do think just one small piece to add is that specific to this commission, I thought it might be of interest to let you know that so what we did was try to put together a very high level, very brief, just kind of introductory, if you will, but to specifically call out, as Armando mentioned, where do we have grounding in an ordinance that this commission exists, the composition of the commission, the different roles of commissioners or the seats, if you will, the fact that you do have a special revenue fund that the commissioners allocate funding out of. So we did prepare that information to provide in the spirit of this transition, just because we felt that those were some very important baseline facts that we wanted to ground any incoming city leadership around our commission. And so I thought that was important just to make sure you all know that we've put that information together and have already started messaging that, if you will. That's the appropriate way to say it. I see Councilwoman Ortega's hand.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for Armando, and this is around like how we are pulling officers from DPD and putting them into Denver Public Schools, and what impact that's having on patrol in our neighborhoods across the city. I think you probably seen the email I sent across asking for consideration of retired police officers who were recently retired to be considered for placement into those positions in the schools versus pulling more expensive officers, if you will, off the streets. So just not asking you to opine on that particularly at this point, but really looking at where we are, how we're addressing that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And yeah, thank you for your recommendation as well. And I'm sure Chief Thomas might want to add to this, but yeah, it's been tough. It has been tough. I think everyone knows that our police department has been understaffed and we have some vacancies. We are making progress to fill those vacancies and try to do that. We also, especially around Chief Thomas kind of charge when he came on as the chief, around reducing response times and addressing our crime issues and all those things. So there's a lot, but we can't ignore the fact that the school violence and the response and the things that happened at East and that are happening in our schools all too often. And the community, there was a demand that they wanted us back, and they wanted the police officers back in their schools, not in all of the schools, but in the select comprehensive schools. So we did that, and Chief Thomas immediately made that decision to fill that request. We are really operating right now to get us through the end of the year, because this is also unfunded. One of the other things I think the commission should know is typically around school resource officers allotments, not only here in Denver, but around the country, the school district pays part or all of that salary for that officer or for those resources. In this case, the school board indicated to us they do not have that funding, obviously have financial pressures that they've been dealing with. So we also have to do it without funding. Well, a lot of our staffing shortages we've been overcoming through overtime. And so this is creating a bigger burden on us. But as Denver Police Department does, they're going to continue to answer the call, and they're going to do their best to meet all the needs of our community with these priorities of not only keeping the priority of responding to violent crime and auto theft and all those things and getting the calls faster, but also trying to meet our needs around schools. And then with the officers, the retired officers idea, I think that's definitely something that we are worth exploring and talking about. There's just more conversations around even the school board around what is the continuation of the SRO program look like? Is it expanded? Is it reduced? Do they go back to not wanting that? The school board has not really given us, they're going to have community conversations throughout this summer and really trying to be responsive to what that is and responsive to our needs around what is our, what can we do around our staffing. So Chief Thomas, I'm going to pass it over to you if I missed anything there. Do you have anything else?
No, sir, I don't think you really missed anything. And ma'am, I appreciate the question. Really, this presents, I think, some competing priorities. Certainly it's been a priority of mine to lower response times. We have been successful in doing that. We continue to be successful in doing that despite having to take 14 or so officers off the street and put them in the schools. The competing priorities that I actually do believe that there's value in having uniformed officers in the schools, not from a safety perspective, but because I think we need you know, that opportunity to have healthy engagements between law enforcement and youth and schools. And so I'll continue to be an advocate for that. And, you know, ultimately we will wait to see what the school administration and the school board's ultimate decision is going forward. But again, you know, we will, you know, continue to meet whatever that need is. And certainly it would be helpful if we could use retired officers to lessen that burden. Although again, I think that there's value in having an actual uniformed officer. I think the other thing that is also lost is the additional cost in that even a retired officer would still have to meet some post certifications and an SRO certification school. It's a 40-hour school that we are sending those that don't already have that certification. You know, luckily for us, we had 8 remaining officers from the original complement of SROs that were able to go into the schools. The other 6 volunteered, so I'm happy that there were people that wanted to be in that space, but they'll have to be trained. We have 6 months in order to do that by rule, and so we have identified some local classes that fit the bill, that fit the regulation. But then we would, if we decided to take advantage of the retired officer option, we would have to provide that training for them as well.
Thank you for answering that question. I appreciate the flexibility in being able to look at creative solutions.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So I think we're good. Unless we have any more questions on that topic, I can go over to our next topic, and that was around the request for proposal process, RFP process here, especially here pertaining to the CPCC. I will not even try to pretend that the city's RFP process is simple. It's not. It's cumbersome. It's bureaucratic. It's all those things that you can equate to government processes. It has been something that they've been trying to improve over the years, but we do have our processes and rules for reasons, and sometimes it doesn't marry itself well with some of our initiatives and the speed in which we want to get them done and all those things. However, we are doing our best and we're working hard now. And in a minute here, I'll pass it over to Laura, who will really kind of walk us through kind of what that is, but also Emily's going to provide some things that we're hoping to provide to the commission around guidance around these things. Because even people that have been in the city a long time, if you ask 10 different city employees that have been in the city a long time to explain the RFP process, you'll probably get 10 different explanations. So we're going to try to do our best. And I know that the process has caused some confusion and then also caused some disagreements around how we talk about it, how we communicate about it. I also want to talk about the last meeting where there was some disagreement around what was being talked about, what could be talked about, and how. I want to tell you that Asadia was trying to represent what she knew best about the process and what she knew about, and she has been, as being part of in her position. There are things around non-disclosure requirements that she has been signing on into and signed on to protect the process. So she was kind of guiding by that. I asked that sometimes we just kind of give that some patience, that process some patience as we learn more and we can educate you more about the process. I think we can learn from this one and really get into how we can learn and then communicate properly and no expectations around what the process is. I think that's really where we missed the mark here is really explaining the expectations so you all knew what those were and what they are and kind of the parameters around that. So we're going to do our best to try to fix that for future ones and also explain it for this one. I'll also say that the RFP process for CPCC is even a little bit more, it's different. It's even different from the overall process and a little more complicated. So Just wanted to kind of talk about that, give some background on that, and let you know we're working on some things. And then lastly, I want to talk about, you know, when the intent to award letters come out, I'll tell you, I don't even know who's gotten them. The intent to award letters, that's a very confidential process, and Laura's going to explain the why around some of that. And it is asked that the awardees or the ones that have received intent to award letters, that they maintain confidentiality. We also we can't really police that and control who talks about what. So I think that might have also contributed a little bit to some of the information coming out piecemeal, and then it just looked disjointed and not coordinated. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Laura, and then I think we're going to finish up with Emily, kind of talking about some next steps with city attorney guidance.
Thank you, Executive Director Salvate. I do have a brief presentation to share regarding the 2024 budget process, as well as just the RFP process as to where we are and what the timeline has been regarding that. And so just today, if you could do the next slide, Emily. So perfect, thank you. So just today, and we will send out a link to the budget presentation, but the budget director of the city, Stephanie Adams, did officially kick off the 2024 budget process. And this will be an interesting budget process in that the timeline has moved up a little bit regarding because of the mayoral transition. And so right now, all budget requests are due May 19th. And so we will send out a link to the presentation that Stephanie did this morning, as well as the official, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation as well. And the request from the budget office, because of the transition, is that expansions and budget requests should be for continuation of services only. That any increases needed for to provide the same services. An example of this would be contractual increases, inflation, those sorts of budget expansions would qualify. But the request from the budget office is no new programs for the May 19th deadline. And May 19th is coming up really quickly. We do have an internal Department of Safety deadline of May 5th. So we'll be working with the CPCC and Asadi and Emily regarding what that looks like. So as a reminder for the 2023 budget, we were funded $2,051,000 to support new program activities to include housing, employment, mental health, incarceration reduction, and education. So those were the what we identified as the new programs within 2023. And that leads to the current programs that we are funding, being reentry, as well as the wellness program, but also the RFP awardees. And then the other funds is the special revenue fund. So as Emily mentioned earlier, that CPCC is a special revenue fund. And so we're still working closely with the budget office as well as DDPHE to reconcile and close out the special revenue fund from that was over in DDPHE. And so we're anticipating, and it's still not finalized yet, but we are anticipating about $1 million of rollover funds. There's nothing represented there because again, it's still not finalized, but it is anticipated to be about $1 million. And so with that then, just a preliminary 2024 budget recommendation would be no new programs for all city departments in 2024. And so then a budget request of that $2 million for CPCC with that rollover as well. So that that rollover will still be there in the special revenue fund. And just to get a little geeky in terms of financial speak, special revenue funds, unlike the general fund, they roll over from year to year. So the funds, if they don't get spent, they are there to be spent in the next year. And so Are there any questions right now? And so again, because the deadlines have moved up quite a bit this year for the budget process, we're still trying to work through, what this looks like. However, the new mayoral administration after the election, the budget office will work really closely with that new mayoral team to develop new initiatives based on the priorities and available capacity in a more condensed time frame. By charter, the mayor has to deliver the budget to council by September 15th. Are there any questions right now before I get into the RFP process? Yes, Liz.
Hi, my question is on the budget that's there, will that 2,051 for next year, will that include the dollar amounts that we will RFP out to the community and part of the same thing, or will that differ, or is that not determined yet?
So let me see if I answer your question correctly. So that $2 million includes the funds for reentry program, the wellness program, as well as the RFP, the awards for the RFP.
Okay.
Did I answer your question correctly?
Yes, that's what I wanted to know. And I know that's still being worked on. Absolutely understand it. I just want to make sure we're looking, it's a work in progress. So thank you.
Exactly. So my recommendation to CPCC would be to request the same for 2024 for that $2 million. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other hands up, but Emily, if I'm missing any hands, please let me know. And then, so moving on then, thank you. So the RFP process update, where we stand right now. So as a reminder, approved CPCC programs for 2023, and this was in the October 19th, 2022 meeting, was the transition from jail to community collaborative. That's the reentry program for $1,135,050. This constitutes the second chance, the contract with that, as well as some staffing within the sheriff department. And then also the wellness program in county courts was also approved for $303,000. And those were continuations because those programs are new, and within CPCC, those were continuations of existing programs. And so that was approved October 19th. And so then regarding the RFP process, so just as a reminder of some of the dates, the budget subcommittee of CPCC worked to create the RFP, and we released the RFP through the purchasing department on December 29th of 2022. We met with potential vendors and answered any questions out there for the RFP process, and that's just part of the RFP on January 17th. And with all RFPs, the request for proposals, they were all due to the purchasing department on February 2nd of 23. The scoring evaluation committee performed their work on the reviewing all of the proposals. And then that final scoring decision and the intent to award was completed by March 8th. And so as part of that, there were 4 intent to award letters sent out. And so currently Asadia and team are working through the scope of work with those vendors and some of the contract negotiations. And the disclosing the awardees, the purchasing department's rules are that we cannot disclose until the contracts are signed officially by both parties. However, so we're anticipating about 60 to 75 days to get through the contracting process. However, I think that's on the longer side of the estimates. So hopefully we'll be done with those contracts on the earlier side of that estimate. But just allowing some times for, because these are new projects for new programs, just allowing that time for the back and forth with the scope of work, really setting up the performance metrics, setting up the terms and conditions of the contract, and just what what the programs will do. And that's really the important part of that scope of work piece that Asadi and team are working through right now. Armando, Emily, what did I miss in there regarding the RFP process?
I think you got everything that we wanted to talk about and hopefully get more information to you all. I'd like to round this out with Emily's been doing also some working with our city attorney contracts team, and is hopefully going to be able to, we'll be in a position to also provide some guidance around things. So before that, I see Councilwoman Ortega has her hand.
Just a quick question on the balance that's available through to the awardees. So when you deduct those two from the $2,051,005, the balance is $612,955. Is that correct? That will be available to be awarded to the people selected?
A little, I didn't do the math. However, Councilwoman Ortega, we are awarding, we set the RFP closer to $1 million because of the rollover funds in the special revenue funds. So we're anticipating about $1 million in that rollover funds, as well as because we're starting these contracts later, not on January 1st. So there is some capacity because these contracts are starting later.
Okay, yeah, I was just doing the simple math based on what you mentioned that is in the budget. So, okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, so we should also, and working with the finance team within safety, you know, working through that budget component, once we get the contracts finalized, you know, adding that into the 2024 budget request. And so kind of working through some of those details. It's a great question.
Yeah.
I think Carol, you were next.
Yeah, just a question about the organizations who applied for the RFP but were not selected. Have they received any letters notifying them?
I will have to confirm that with the purchasing department. I don't know, but let me find out that answer and I will get back to this group.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Yeah. Liz?
Yeah, and just to respond to Carol's, in the past with the those applicants that were chosen, they generally wait till everything has been finalized with the final selection before that is communicated out in case anything changes in the process. So that's generally how it's been in the past.
That's
when I've dealt with that.
my understanding as well, Liz, and I can definitely confirm, but I believe that.
And I also want to thank those that were on the budget committee and the RFP committee, including Beth Hughes, for their work, because this was not easy. I've been through it before several times. It still doesn't get any easier, like Armando pointed out. And so really thank them for the work and the due diligence that they did in this process. And it's been, you know, I just forgot how wonderful it is. But yeah, but thanks to the budget committee and the RFP committee for all the work that they did on it.
Can I piggyback on that and thank Liz for her leadership on that committee? Because she really kept us on task in the most kind and gracious way. So thank you, Liz.
You were herding cats in there, so thank you. It was great work with you and Carol. So thank you. And I did receive confirmation right now that they will not receive letters until the contracts are completed. Kudos to you for. Any other questions regarding the RFP process? Emily, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Laura and Armando. I would just add to sort of finale onto that. I know we've had several conversations, including at the last meeting. I think another one of the challenging dimensions, especially to the city processes around procurement and contracting, also fall in lines with the questions and concerns about conflict of interest and maintaining appropriate conversations, appropriate information sharing, as well as making sure that we're being good stewards of our special revenue fund here on the commission. So Asadi and I have been working with the city attorney's office to try and develop some resources and some support so that we can make sure we're best supporting the commission together along with the rest of the safety team here. And so I think three pieces for you to be aware of. Number one, you're not alone. This is actually apparently conversations that are occurring with multiple boards and commissions across the city. And so this is actually I don't know if a newer space is the right way to frame it, but this is actually an area where the city as a whole recognizes that we have a gap and we have a blind spot, if you will, around the guidance that we give to our commissioners who are appointed to serve in these roles, advisory in your case, stewarding certain funding of the city. And so how can we make sure as a city that we are appropriately giving you training and supports and tools and resources to be able to navigate that work that we're asking you to do on behalf of the city and the community? So we are working closely with the city attorney's office to understand what that will look like consistently for all board members and commissioners across the city, including the Crime Prevention and Control Commission. So we will absolutely be updating you on that. In the meantime, some immediate guidance that we have gotten from the city attorney's office is that appointed commissioners are considered city officials under the city's code of ethics. And so this is actually a really good resource and place of guidance for all of us and for you as commissioners about the city's specific parameters and definitions around what constitutes a conflict of interest. When does one need to recuse oneself from conversation or from decision-making or voting under those different pieces of the definition of the conflict of interest. So it'll be a good starting place for all of us. So as part of our meeting follow-up materials that I'll send out after the meeting today, we'll definitely include a link to the city's code of ethics. And so just know that that will get those conversations started with all of you. And please do think about what would those tools and supports look like for you as commissioners to help inform Asadia's work and my work moving forward, and making sure that you have what you need to navigate some of these conversations and decision points as well. Councilwoman, I see your hand.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask about whether or not we have a consistent methodology for collecting the data so that you know, you don't collect it in a way where you can't like compare apples to apples, for example. And I haven't looked at the RFP to see if we have this done as like performance-based contracts so that we're being able to show that we're moving the needle on the lives of the people that will be served with all of these contracts. And I mean, part of that gets back to the fact that, you know, part of this population gets served by multiple agencies and none of them talk to each other. And there's no way to really show like how much money is being spent where we're not really making an impactful difference. And this is where I think the performance-based contracting really begins to help kind of move that needle. I mean, part of it goes back to conversations we had early on around the fact that we don't have something like a unique identifier number for individuals to be able to track them and maybe even have conversations around numbers, not people, and not getting into HIPAA violations, but being able to look at what different agencies who are serving the same people might be able to do collaborating to make a real difference in the lives of these individuals. So just want to throw that out there.
I appreciate that comment and that question as well. I've heard that from the team as well, and they know that they have that top of mind as they're working with the vendors to negotiate the scopes of work for the contract. Cindy Lobb, who's been providing such support for the commission for so long now, Cindy is actively engaged as part of that team. And that is one of Cindy's goals specifically, is to make sure that it's very clear for all of the vendors that are going to be under the new contracts, what pieces of data and information need to be collected to be helpful so that we can understand that return on investment and that impact analysis. Especially given that limitations of so many different systems and so few ways of connecting those dots of the data, if you will. I know Cindy has absolutely got that top of mind as we're moving through this process.
And I think where we can keep it simple so it's not so cumbersome for them to collect the data, but do it in a comprehensive methodology so that it is uniform in the way that we're collecting it. would be important because some of these groups may not have the same staffing levels, the same sophistication within their agencies, but they're committed to doing a quality job. And so wherever we can simplify it, I think that makes a difference. So thank you for that.
That's a great observation. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, comments, or thoughts about any of these last pieces?
Emily, I think since no one has any more comments or questions, I think to put a bow on this conversation also brings up a good topic and some news to share with the commission. Bittersweet for us all, but our Chief Financial Officer in the Department of Safety, Laura Wachter, who has been an institution here in safety and in CPCC, is moving on to a new and exciting role here in the city. In the Department of Finance, where I think it all started for you in the city. So kind of going a complete circle. She's meant a lot to me, a lot to our department, a lot to all our safety departments. She's always shown up. And as you all know, those of you that have been on the commission for a while, she's been a big part of a lot of the initiatives we've all had involved in, and I know worked closely with you all. So she's going to be missed across a lot of things. And I think things we don't even realize quite yet of this. I know the commission is one place she's going to be missed. So I just wanted to announce that and give her a chance to kind of just say her goodbye to the commission in her last meeting.
Thank you, Armando. And it is very bittersweet. I'm really excited for my new role within the Department of Finance, but it's very bittersweet. I've been working with the commission since 2005, since the very beginning, and I've learned a lot, and it's been an honor to be part of all of the work that the commission is doing. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Laura. And for those of us that, let's just say we have a friend in finance now. All righty. And Emily, you want to go to the next item from the agenda?
Sure. I've got a couple. Before I open it up for other commissioner business, I've just got a couple announcements from Asadia that I would like to share. She asked me to make sure to remind everyone that our next Justice Coordinating Committee, JCC meeting will be there the first Thursday of each month. The next one will be May 4th. At the Denver Crime Lab Auditorium at 1371 Cherokee Street at 2:30 p.m. If you need additional information, please reach out to Asadia or to myself in Asadia's absence for the next week, and we'll be happy to assist. Similarly, commissioners, you should have received a Microsoft form asking you to join subcommittees based on the strategic planning work. I'll step back and say that thanks to those who were able to attend the last JCC meeting, the strategic planning work around the remaining 4 of the 7 ordinance goals for the commission was completed by the team there and has been summarized by the peak team for us. And so I've also got those notes from that process to share out with the group. And then Asadia had sent out prior to her leaving a Microsoft form asking each of you to identify a subcommittee to work on. And in the event that one or more, certainly very more popular than others, she asked if you could please just rank subcommittees you'd be interested in joining so she can try and match folks with their interest level, but also balance out the membership lists. She did ask if you responded to the survey with only ranking the numbers and not putting your name and your number, if you could please do her a favor and resubmit. There's some sort of technical snafu with the results side of the form, and so we're not seeing the names. She does have a handful of entries that only have ranked choice numbers. They don't actually have a name associated with them. So as part of the follow-up from this meeting, I'll also be sending out on her behalf that link to that form again. So please, if in doubt, feel free to do it again. And worst case, she'll reach out to you and rectify any differences in subcommittee choosing that you may have done. I can do my best in her absence to help decipher which subcommittee will do which, but hopefully the strategic planning materials that we'll forward out as well will help with that. And she will definitely be back next Wednesday and able to help with other questions. I see Armando's hand.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, as soon as I got off mute, I realized I wanted to do one other thing. I want to introduce our new CPCC fiscal administrator. So when we resumed with CPCC now under the Department of Safety, one of those needs that Laura identified for us was that knowing that cumbersome process we all talked about with RFP contracts and all that, would that an FTE to support that work and mission to be, especially in reporting back to the commission, was needed. So we've hired that fiscal administrator, and Brittany Carlock's on the call, and I'll let you, Brittany, to hand over to you to kind of introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Brittany, and I'm honored to be here to service your financial needs with your program. And I think it's great work what you're doing for the community. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brittany, and she'll be working closely with Asadia and all of you on our future endeavors. So thank you and welcome, Brittany. Back over to you.
Thank you, Armando. With that, those were the announcements that I had on Asadia's behalf. So I'll open up the floor to the commissioners if there's other commission business or topics of interest that you have. And I see Carol's hand.
Thanks, Emily. Well, I was looking for the right emoji to put up for the news about Laura. Couldn't find it, and then because I had tears, and then I had like smile, like the frowny face. And I just want to say, Laura, it's been such a pleasure to work with you these years. I wish you the best. You brought so much to the process of, look at all those hearts going up, to the move at what we've been working on, and really appreciate you and how wonderful you are to work with. I also want to point out a bit of confusion with the membership, because when I saw Tomas's expression, like, I'm representing victims, and so that needs to be clarified, because when the ordinance was revised most recently, we expanded the language to say that the commission would consist of up to 3 victim representatives or representatives from community coalitions / organizations that are focused on justice and or crime prevention from areas of Denver most impacted by crime. And there are several of you then who actually were appointed to fill those seats. So wanted to just clarify that. And with that, that's it. Thank you.
No, thank you, Carol, very much. I pulled the roster, if you will, off of the website, and I know the team's been working diligently to update as we've had membership changes and vacancies filled, and it looks like we absolutely need to make sure that we've got our language aligned with the ordinance. So I really appreciate that, pointing that out for us so we can make sure we're bringing things into the correct languaging. I will say as well, I'm going to add in a plug. I know Asadia has mentioned before, one of the top priorities along with that ordinance change is updating the bylaws. And so that will be a very important piece of work that I know she is anxious to get kicked off with you all as soon as she is back. So for those who might feel that that could be a good place for them to share some of their time and effort, that would definitely be most appreciated. So if that is a task that you would very specifically like to be a part of, please definitely let her know that directly, so that we can make sure to align that interest in that task. Tomas.
Okay, hey everybody, Carol, thanks for bringing that up. But to be clear, that is my lived experience. So I figured that I was on that lived experience path. So I wasn't really like, I just want you guys to know that I wasn't like spinning in the air thinking that I was something else. That is like to the definitions of why I'm here, just to make sure you guys didn't think I was just like trying to be a commissioner or something. Okay.
Thank you, Tomas.
All right. Other questions, comments, orders of business?
Emily, I think it might be time if we can have any guests that want to talk to have their comments.
All right, yep, we will open it up to guest comments. If you could please, if you can, do a raised hand function and then introduce yourself. We'll open up the floor.
Doesn't look like we have any. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And
So
may we
moved.
have a second?
Second.
Seems like Armando's in a hurry to get rid of us.
No, I was actually, I didn't want to waste any of your time. I mean, we can sit.
I'm just messing with you.
Giving us some free time back. I could do that.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for being patient with me as I'm trying to fill Asadia's shoes today. Very much appreciate it. Please do let me know if there's any follow-up that you need in her absence, and we will do our best to support. And within the next couple of days, my goal is to get out to you the meeting follow-up with our materials from today, the links that we've spoken about, and then also a link to the meeting recording that we'll have posted on the website. So please look for that in the upcoming days, and have a great afternoon.
You did a great job, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.